The Inheritance Cycle is a young adult tetralogy of epic fantasy novels written by American author Christopher Paolini. Set in the fictional world of Alagaësia, the novels focus on the adventures of a teenage boy named Eragon and his dragon, Saphira, as they struggle to overthrow the evil king Galbatorix. The series was originally intended to be a trilogy until Paolini announced on October 30, 2007, while working on the third novel, that he believed the story was too complex to conclude in just 3 books. The book series as a whole received mostly mixed to negative reviews by critics, but has gained both popularity and commercial success. The first book in the series, Eragon, was originally self-published by Paolini in 2001, and subsequently republished by Alfred A. Knopf Books for young readers on June 25, 2003. The second book in the series, Eldest, was published by Knopf on August 23, 2005. Both were New York Times bestsellers. The third book in the series, Brisingr, was published by Knopf on September 20, 2008. The fourth and final book in the series, Inheritance, was published by Knopf on November 8, 2011. The series has sold 33.5 million copies worldwide. In 2006, a feature film was released based on the first book in the cycle, Eragon, starring Ed Spieleers, Jeremy Irons, John Malkovich and Jim Anhouser. The film received generally negative reviews and closed as the 13th highest-grossing fantasy live-action film within the United States. Inheritance Cycle, Eragon, 2003, Eldest, 2005, Brisingr, 2008, Inheritance, 2011. Other books: Eragon's Guide to Alagaësia. Publication history: homeschooled by his parents, Christopher Paolini graduated from high school at the age of 15, but felt he was not yet mature enough for college, so he wrote Eragon in his spare time. After writing the first draft for a year, he spent a second year rewriting it and fleshing out the story and characters, and then presented it to his parents. They had it self-published by the family publishing company, Paolini International, and Paolini then traveled to various schools advertising his novel. In 2002, author Carl Hiaasen discovered the book while his stepson was reading it, and brought it to the attention of his publisher, Alfred A. Knopf. It was republished by Knopf in 2003. Eldest was released in hardcover in August 2005, and in paperback in March 2007. A limited edition, featuring extras such as a brief history of Alagaësia, a double-sided poster featuring Brisingr and Gladr, and a sneak peek of Brisingr was released in September 2006. The deluxe edition of Eldest has an excerpt from the third chapter of Brisingr. Brisingr, a word that means fire in Alagaësia's ancient language, taken from Old Nossi, was published on September 20, 2008. Paolini's announcement of the book's publishing date included the revelation that the Inheritance trilogy would now contain 4 books instead of 3, thus resulting in the renaming of the series to the Inheritance Cycle. Inheritance was announced by Random House on March 23, 2011 with a cover artwork. It was released on November 8, 2011 in the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, and New Zealand. Synopsis: in the fictional land of Alagaësia, an order was originally created to oversee the countries and bring peace to the world. This group was known as the Dragon Riders, for they rode dragons, at the birth of which a bond was formed in accordance with a pact made between elves and dragons millennia earlier. One dragon rider named Galbatorix had his dragon slain by a group of Urgals. The dragon's death pushed him to insanity. Denied another dragon by the Council of Elder Riders, Galbatorix blamed the council for the death of his dragon and sought to destroy the order. He made an alliance with an at first innocent young rider, Mizan, and with his help slew another rider and took his next dragon captive, Shruikan. Using magic, he broke Shruikan's will and forced the dragon to serve him. Gathering more riders to his cause, he created the 13 Forsworn and with their help, took over Illyria, the capital of the Brisingr kingdom, and destroyed Vrungard, the center of the Dragon Riders. Galbatorix slew the Elders, their leader Vrail, and most of the Dragon Riders. When the remaining dragons found out that the betrayal was aided by their own species, they collectively cast a spell on the Forsworn's dragons, which made them unable to be named. Elder rider Eragon and his dragon Galbatorix fled to Elsmere, the capital of the Elves' kingdom, while Mizun confronted his old friend Brom, slaying his dragon. However, Mizun showed mercy to Brom, who later escaped. After the fall of the riders, Galbatorix declared himself king over all of Alagaësia. He then focused his efforts into going after the elves and the dwarfs, but he was thwarted. Over the next century, several of the Forsworn were killed either from battle or power struggles, or committed suicide after going mad. Serda declared independence from Galbatorix and became its own country. Brom created the Varden, a rebellion meant to oppose the Empire, killing 3 of the Forsworn including Mizun personally, and orchestrated the deaths of 5 more. Brom and Mizun's wife, Selena, fell in love while Brom was working undercover in Mizun's staff. Selena, who already had Mizun's son, became pregnant with Brom's child. She returned to Carver Hall, her brother Garrow's home, to give birth to the child. After begging her brother and his wife to raise her son, Eragon, as their own, she left Carver Hall to return to Mizun and her first son. She died soon afterward. When Brom needed to disappear, he traveled to Carver Hall, disguised as a storyteller to be near his son who was not aware of his relationship to the man. The first book in the series started with the attack on Oriah, who was carrying a dragon's egg, by Dirta, who was a servant of Galbatorix. Only 2 other dragon eggs remain in the citadel in Illyria, which had been renamed Euraburn by Galbatorix. Oriah attempted to send the egg to Brom, but the remaining Eldunera altered the spell, making the egg go to Eragon, because they believed that the egg might hatch for him, who finds the egg while on a hunting trip. A few days later, the egg hatches, and Eragon names the hatchling Saphira, becoming a dragon rider through their bond. His cousin, Roran, leaves for a job to earn money so he can start a family with his beloved, Katrina. His uncle, Garrow, is killed by King Galbatorix's servants, the Razak, and Eragon flees Carver Hall with Brom to hunt down the Razak, unbeknownst to him that Brom is his father. Brom gives Mizun's sword, Zarok, to Eragon. On the journey, Brom teaches Eragon sword fighting, magic, a minimal understanding of the ancient language, and the ways of the dragon riders. On the journey they become close friends. Halfway through their journey, their camp is ambushed by the Razak and a stranger named Myrta rescues them, but Brom is gravely injured. In his dying breath, Brom reveals to Eragon that he once was a dragon rider and his dragon was also named Saphira. Eragon decides to follow his dream of Oriah to Gilead. Myrta and Eragon rescue the courier Oriah, who reveals she is an elf and is in need of the Varden's medical assistance. They flee to the Varden as they are being chased by Urgles to the capital Trondheim. As they are trapped, Myrta is revealed to be Mizun's son. The Varden imprisons Myrta after he refuses to allow his mind to be read, as Myrta doesn't want them to learn of his parentage. Eragon is introduced to the Varden's leader, Agihad, his daughter Nasada, the dwarf king Hrothgar, and his foster son Oric. The Varden are attacked by an army of Urgles. In the ensuing battle, Eragon gets separated from the main fighting and finds himself in a one-on-one duel with Dirta. In the duel, Eragon receives a large cursed scar on his back, but Oriah and Saphira create a distraction long enough for Eragon to stab Dirta through the heart. In the aftermath, Agihad is killed by a band of Urgles and Myrta is captured. In the remainder of the Rider War, Eragon and Saphira learn under the tutelage of Eragon and Galbatorix in Elsmere. During an elvish blood oath celebration, Eragon is changed by the dragons, giving him elf-like abilities and healing his back as well as all of his other injuries. Eragon then reveals his true feelings to Oriah. After much persistence, Oriah angrily rejects Eragon's suit. Meanwhile, Nasada moves the Varden to the separate country of Serda, which is ruled by King Orin, and Roran moves the villagers of Carver Hall to Serda, after their village was destroyed by the Razak, who also captured Katrina. Roran is promoted to captain while Nasada allows the Urgles to join the ranks of the Varden. Eragon and Saphira confront Myrta and Thorn, who slew King Hrothgar. Myrta bests Eragon, taking his sword Zarok, and revealing to him the truth that they are brothers. Eragon, Saphira, and Roran arrive at Helgrind, where they free Katrina. Eragon and Roran destroy much of Helgrind, slaying the Razak while Saphira kills the Leblaka, the Razak's adult form. He then goes to the Beer Mountains and helps Auric become king of the dwarves. After that, Eragon goes back to do Eldenvarden and creates his own sword Brisingr, which bursts into flames each time Eragon speaks its name, and learns that Brum is his real father and of the Eldunera, the Hearts of Hearts, which is also the source to Galbatorix's power from Eromis and Gladr. The Varden captures several cities of the Empire, and Eromis and Gladr are killed by Murta and Thorn, though Gladr has given his Eldunera to Eragon and Saphira to further their training. After the defeat of one of the Empire's cities, Nasada is captured for interrogation by Murta, who heals her of her injuries, which causes an identity switch, breaking his oath to Galbatorix. Eragon travels to the Vault of Souls on the ruined Vungard, which is a massive amount of secret Eldunera and dragon eggs hidden from Galbatorix. Taking many of the Eldunera, he faces Galbatorix and after a fierce battle, Galbatorix is slain by Eragon's improvised spell, which he spoke mentally. Meanwhile, Shruikan is killed by Araya. Murta and Thorn retreat to somewhere in the north to have some time to themselves. Nasada, after a heated debate with the leaders of the Varden, becomes the High Queen of Alagaësia. Araya returns to do Eldenvarden to help choose a new monarch for the elves after the death of Queen Islanzada in battle, and is chosen. She takes with her the rescued green dragon egg, which soon hatches for her. Thus, Araya becomes a rider with her dragon named Farnen. Near the end of the book, Araya reveals this to Eragon, and Saphira decides to test Farnen to see if he has the iron in his bones, and the fire in his belly to match her. They become mates shortly thereafter. Eragon reworks the magic of the original pact between riders and dragons to include both dwarves and Urgals, allowing the dragon eggs to hatch for members of their races. Eragon, coming to the conclusion that there is no safe place to raise the dragons and train new riders in Alagaësia, begins planning transport of the Eldunera and the eggs to a region east of Alagaësia, save for 2 eggs which are kept in Alagaësia. One is to be sent to the dwarves, and the other to the Urgals. Those future riders will travel to Eragon's new home for training, while new eggs will be sent back to Alagaësia to hatch for new riders. Major characters. Eragon, his quest begins when he finds a mysterious stone, which turned out to be a dragon egg, during a hunting trip. His journey begins by fleeing Carver Hall with a mysterious old man named Brom. Eventually, his true training begins when he meets Oromisa, an elven dragon rider who has been presumed dead, who is hiding in Elsmera awaiting the next rider. He gradually learns how to fight, use magic, and read. He was named by his mother after the first dragon rider. He is deeply in love with Araya, has sworn fealty to Nasada and is a member of the Injatum clan of dwarves. He has become widely known by various titles such as Shader Slayer, Kingkiller, Argadlam, Ferus Ward, and Bane of the Razak. His main goal is to eventually defeat Galbatorix in battle and free Alagaësia, which he accomplishes in inheritance. Following this, however, he leaves Alagaësia forever to be able to train the next dragon riders. This fulfills the prophecy described by Angela at the beginning of the cycle. Araya, an elven princess rescued by Eragon in Eragon, with whom he falls in love. Until she was ambushed and captured by Dirta, she acted as a courier for Saphira's egg, carrying it between the elves and the Varden. Formerly referred to as Araya Dra paragraphed Ningu, and referred to occasionally as Araya Elder Currency, denoting her as worthy of high honor. At the end of Brisingr she kills a shade, a creature in opposition to the protagonists, becoming one of the few people besides Eragon to have earned the name Shader Slayer. After her mother's death in inheritance, she takes over her position as queen. At the end of inheritance, the last dragon egg that Galbatorix held hatches for her, and Araya names the dragon Farnen. She tells Eragon that, given time, they could be together. However, Eragon leaves Alagaësia to raise up new dragons and riders, and Araya remains as queen of the elves. Galbatorix, the initiator of the rebellion responsible for the fall of the riders. He is described as cruel and merciless, with little regard for any kind of life. Now the king of the empire, he has amassed unparalleled power because of the enslavement of hundreds of dragons. Because of the power he wields, no one has been able to dethrone him, and he has ruled for more than a century. He rides a black dragon named Eragon, whom he stole from another rider and forced to bond with him. Throughout the first 3 books, he is only mentioned, never appearing in person until the final book where he finally dethroned. Murta, the son of Mizun and Selena, is Eragon's half-brother, an inch or so taller than Eragon, and is a few years older. He rescues Eragon and Saphira from the Razak, when Brum was killed, and travels with them to Gilead, where Eragon is captured. Later, Murta and Saphira rescue Eragon and Araya from Dirtsa, the Shade. Murta shoots Dirtsa twice, once in the shoulder and once between the eyes, causing Dirtsa to disappear. Murta then travels with Eragon to Farthingia and the Varden, where he gets locked up because of his father's legacy, though Adihard lets him fight in the battle under Farthingia. Murta, in Eldest, gets captured and taken to Galbatorix, where the red dragon, Thorn, hatches for him. Here, he gets tortured and is forced to swear loyalty to the king. At the end of Eldest, during the Battle of the Burning Plains, he kills Hrothgar and beats Eragon in a duel. But because of their previous friendship, he lets Eragon go, after taking Zarok and telling Eragon that he is his brother. In the 3rd book, Murta is forced to swear more oaths to Galbatorix to ensure his obedience. Later, he battles Eragon again, but this time, with the help of elven spellcasters, Eragon beats him, though he loses consciousness and Murta escapes. In Inheritance, Murta is chosen to defend Drusleona, though the Varden still capture the city. At the final confrontation between Eragon and Galbatorix, Galbatorix tells Murta to fight Eragon instead of himself. Murta nearly strikes a fatal blow in his anger, but Galbatorix prevents him from killing Eragon. Eragon, after realizing that Murta is probably a better swordsman, purposely leaves an opening for Murta to strike so that he could counterattack. This move gravely injures Murta and Eragon escapes only slightly wounded, ending the duel, with Galbatorix claiming Eragon as the winner. Right after the duel, Murta understands and his true name changes. Then, using the name of all names, Murta strips Galbatorix of his wards, allowing Eragon to kill him. Then, after the battle, Murta flies off and Eragon goes after him. They then acknowledge each other as brothers and Murta leaves. He was last sighted near Duelden Varden. Setting: the series is set on the mythical continent of Alagaësia. Geography The Beer Mountains are a vast and incredibly tall mountain range in the south of Alagaësia. Within this area is the Ars Ragni and Bartooth River, as well as multiple dwarf cities. The city of Trondheim is located inside the hollow mountain Farthindawa. Northwest of Farthindawa is Tanag, the home of Selbdil, a great dwarven temple. Duelden Varden is a dense forest which covers the north of Alagaësia. The elf cities of Ceres and Elsma copyright Ra are located within the forest, as well as the Guyana River and Lake Arden. The empire covers the west of Alagaësia and is the area under the control of King Galbatorix. The area is populated by humans living in cities and towns such as Aruz, Bellatona, Carver Hall, Cianon, Derrit, Drusleona, Eastcroft, Feinster, Gilead, Corster, Nada, Theransford, Taim, Urabayan, and Yatesack. The empire is split by an untamed mountain range known as the Spine. The Palancar Valley, a major valley of the Spine, is the location of Eragon's hometown and is thus where the inheritance cycle begins. Helgrind is a large bare rock mountain near Drusleona. South of the empire is the country of Serda, which seceded from the empire while Galbatorix was learning to use the dragon's Heart of Hearts. Serda includes the cities of Aberon, Petra Vyar, Dorth, Sithra, Revestone, and Lithgow. The Haderach Desert is a giant desert which covers the middle of Alagaësia. Northwest of the mainland lies the island of Rungad, containing the city of Deruaraba. This used to be the home of the riders before they fell. Now, It is inhabited by strange creatures and is almost completely abandoned except for strange people that Eragon saw. Inhabitants Alagaësia is populated by various sentient races, including humans, elves, dwarves, urgles, dragons, werewolves, shades, and Razak. Alagaësia was once host to a now extinct race known as the Grey Folk. Languages There are multiple languages in the world of Alagaësia, many races have their own, and the language for magic is shared with the Elvish language. Common is chiefly spoken by humans and Gavadan. Many races can speak Common, including the dragons. The ancient language is spoken by elves and spellcasters from any race as it is the language of magic. It is impossible to lie whilst speaking in the ancient language, though the elves have mastered the ability to omit the truth, or at least part of it. Dwarvish is spoken by the dwarves. The huge, grey-skinned Urgles speak their own guttural language, as well as more primitive Common. The nomadic language is spoken by the various tribes that wander throughout Alagaësia. The Razak and the Lever Blaka have their own form of communication. It is a series of clicks, hisses and rattles that no others have been able to speak or decipher. Eragon's Guide to Alagaësia Eragon's Guide to Alagaësia is a supplemental book to the Inheritance Cycle, published in November 2009. The book takes the appearance of being written by Eragon after the events of Inheritance, and is directed at a young dragon rider. It is Paolini's fourth book. Fully in color, the book features 15 pieces of artwork depicting cities and the various races of Alagaësia. Since it was published before the release of Inheritance, it contains hints of the novel's direction. Potential sequels. In an interview, Christopher Paolini stated that he was considering writing more stories set in Alagaësia. He plans for one of them to be a continuation of the Inheritance Cycle, and the others to be for new storylines. Criticism. The books have been criticized for their derivative nature. The two most commonly discussed sources are Star Wars and The Lord of the Rings. Even many positive reviews note that the work pulls strongly from the conventions of fantasy, in characters, maps, dialogue and concepts. The reviews of Eldest were similar. Paolini was cited as having developed as a writer from Eragon, but also noted was strong use of The Empire Strikes Back as source material, as well as The Two Towers and Dune. USA Today also cited strong echoes of Star Wars in Eragon's plot, while Entertainment Weekly writes that the plot closely resembles that of The Lord of the Rings. Eragon film adaptation. On December 15, 2006, a film adaptation of Eragon was released. The movie, starring Edward Spielers in the title role of Eragon, as well as Jeremy Irons, John Malkovich, Rachel Weisz, Sienna Guillory, Jim Henson and Robert Carlyle, was produced by 20th Century Fox. Stephen Fangmeyer made his directorial debut with Eragon. The screenplay was written by Peter Buchman. Principal photography for the film took place in Hungary and Slovakia. A DVD of the movie was released March 20, 2007. The film received negative reviews due to claims of amateur writing and of borrowing from Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. Because of the film's extensive criticism, and of the trilogy being unexpectedly extended into a cycle, there have been no plans for any future films. Footnotes. External links: Alagaësia.com official Inheritance Cycle website.